Alabama, Oklahoma. Blaine, I'll start with you on this one.
Okay.
I love the under in this game. It was, I took Oklahoma plus 14 as one of my Saturday 6 because I thought this was going to go kind of like the Georgia Clemson game went a little bit at the beginning of the year. Hey, it's Brent Senior Day at Oklahoma. That defense is going to stand up, keep them in the game, but just eventually the dam will break and Bama will find a way to go up 2 scores and it's over. Buddy, it was a 3-point jump shot from Alabama early, and then it was nothing. Oklahoma, this wasn't a sneak by. This wasn't a fluke. You didn't get tricked. You got bullied. Mm-hmm. And I was shocked. But again, we said, Blaine, you're not going to be able to line up and do to Oklahoma what you did to LSU. Yeah. Say what you're running into the strength of their team. And what did they do the first play of the game they got the ball? It was either Q power or power read or Q counter. And Danny Stutzman absolutely smoked Jalen Milroe, and then it was on from there.
Yeah, well, this is why you brought Brent Venables in to be your head coach. That defense will show up week in, week out. And I go back to this makes the LSU loss even worse because you see what teams are doing, right? They want Jalen Milroe to beat him from the pocket. All right, him getting outside, using his legs, that's when he's most dangerous. And Venables knew that, and they schemed against that. And I'm more worried about this, to be honest. Alabama had everything on the line. Everything on the line. You win, you're basically in. And not only did you lose, you got bullied. You got bullied by an Oklahoma team for 4 quarters. So there's a lot of questions rolling around in Alabama about Kalen DeBoer, and I know it's early, but Alabama fans aren't used to this. They're not used to when it matters the most, when the pressure's at the highest, not coming through because Nick Saban is usually on that sidelines. So there's a lot of worries to me, but you see the formula to beat Bama. All right, you keep Jalen Milroe in the pocket, and that's what Brent Venables did. He schemed beautifully. Now, where does Oklahoma go from here? All right, you want to talk about momentum, right? Oklahoma's slowly starting to trend up, and there's it's crazy. You look at the middle of the pack of a lot of conferences, and they have nothing to win. All right, then they're basically the Joker out of Batman. It's like Kansas right now. All right, they're just ruining people's lives. That's what they're doing. I think you can put Oklahoma in the same boat.
Well, and David, I got a pretty good idea of what you're going to say, but listen to these numbers. Just, you want to talk about Bizarro World or the Upside Down from Stranger Things? What if I told you that a quarterback in this Oklahoma-Alabama game would run for 131 yards on 21 carries, and a running back would run for 107 yards on only 18 carries with 2 touchdowns? And neither one of those guys played for Alabama. Jalen Milroe ended up with 7 yards on 15 carries. Jam Miller had 45 on 12. Justice Haynes had 18 on 3. I have my wife, and yours is too.
Oh, they were talking last night.
My wife was sitting on the couch. She's, her baby's due in January. She's a huge Alabama fan. She said something, and she knows football. She loves football, but she's, very kind of 30,000-foot view. We'll point out the obvious, but said something that to me just kind of rung true. And I think a lot of Alabama fans, if you don't overanalyze it, would agree with. She said, why don't we look strong anymore? And you at first hear that and you're like, okay, well, but then you really think about it. Alabama did not look strong. They looked weak physically. That they didn't look like the big dog. Oklahoma was the one pressing the foot on the throat from the jump. And is Jackson Arnold the guy next year? Is he the guy? I don't know. I still don't think this answered that question to me. Because if that's the case, just put him at running back and then go get a quarterback.
Yeah, well, look, the 24-3 score didn't surprise me. That's right in line with what I was thinking. I just would have thought the team scores would be flipped in this scenario. And look, you're talking about Oklahoma's defense. They are a perfect reflection of their head coach, Brent Venables, who we saw lead the defensive unit for those Clemson teams who went toe-to-toe with Alabama. They are smart and they are disciplined. All right, that's what I see from them when I see Oklahoma's defense take the field. Now, my buddy Nick Sheridan, he's getting a lot of blame today. Alabama fans want to bury him, and I'm sure there's some things in that game and in the game plan that he would like to go back and change. But at the end of the day, your players didn't play very well. All right, like Jalen Milroe and these guys, the offensive tackles for Alabama were getting bullied all game, beaten with speed off the edge almost every single play. And your quarterback threw 3 interceptions. And then, Also, the Alabama defense, guys, another problem that we've seen every single week. You gave up 260 yards of rushing to Oklahoma. You gave up 260 yards rushing, and your quarterback threw 3 interceptions. That's not a recipe to win games. And I think Kalen DeBoer is obviously a heck of a football coach, but I'll say it. I think Nick Saban, if Nick Saban's the head coach on that team yesterday, they beat Oklahoma. I think if Nick Saban's the head coach of Alabama this season, they find a way in the second half to beat Vanderbilt. Now, this team is still not a perfect football team, so let's say they still lose on the road at Tennessee. Well, you'd still be looking at a one-loss team, and you'd be right there in the top of the standings to play in the SEC. But look, he's not there. He's not there anymore. You've got 3 losses, and what's most frustrating, I think, for Alabama fans is some of the product you've put out on the field this year could win the national championship. That first half against Georgia, that full game against LSU, that's the type of team that could win the national championship. And now you look at performances like this, 24-3, you have no answer on either side of the ball. You have 3 losses. I don't know, guys. I mean, we saw the committee find a way to put Alabama in last year, and the more teams that lose, someone's going to make the tournament. They're not canceling the tournament. So either 2-loss teams are getting in, or they're going to find a 3-loss team to put in. I don't know, but that was not a good performance yesterday,
and
guys.
Yeah, and Oklahoma fans, David, I agree with you 100%. It is the flashes, right? The flashes of greatness that reel you back in and leave you disappointed the most. In the chat, Oklahoma fans, I do want to know, do y'all want Jackson Arnold back next year? Like, is that do y'all want to ride with Jackson Arnold for another year? Regardless of what happens at OC and everything moving forward. But I tell you what, man, and I know we're going to preview the Auburn-Alabama game this week. I know that Bama's hopes are pretty much dashed from the college football playoff, but you better strap it back up, because there's an Auburn team coming that's going to have a little bit of momentum as well. But Blaine, let's get to the chat.
All right, let's go to Jabari Bryant. What's up, man? He said the loss last night for Bama may have been the worst loss I've seen in a while. And yes, that's in the same season when they lost to Vanderbilt. And I didn't think that was possible.
First time I believe I saw that this was the first time that Alabama did not score an offensive touchdown since the 9-6 game against LSU. That's how long it's been.
Let's go to Troy V. What's up, Troy? Says Alabama offensive line looked like a bunch of high school kids playing against grown men Saturday. Oh, have the mighty have fallen.
Well, that and Jalen Milroe threw it right to him twice. Threw it right to him. The one on the now screen, first you got to give that ball. It was an RPO.
Yeah.
And you had it. You had it if you would have given it. I know hindsight's always 20/20, but it's one thing that have tip pass interceptions or a guy runs the wrong route. It's not really on the quarterback. David, I mean, you know this better than anybody. Not that you threw a lot of interceptions, but sometimes stuff goes wrong. That's not the quarterback's fault.
That's for sure.
There were completions just to the wrong team. That's a good point. But I mean, dude, some of those are just like you'd expect Jackson Arnold to do that.
Against what? Zone coverage. How often have we talked about it? Against zone coverage, if you play that against Jalen Milroe and you're able to get pressure effective off the edge, the now screen one, that's what I'm talking about, this Oklahoma defense being smart and disciplined. He knew when to jump that because he had help behind him. Did that interception not remind you guys of the one Will Johnson had off of Miller Moss against USC, like week 4, week 5, something like that? And then you follow that up with another interception on the next drive, catting out back there into your coverage. Like, it's just – and the question, again, I'll ask the same thing for Oklahoma that I asked for Florida. Okay. Can you repeat this week in and week out so that you're at the top of the conference, or is the ceiling for Brent Venables at Oklahoma the same what we asked about Billy Napier? Are you just going to be a 6-6, 7-5, 8-4 team, but you can beat the top teams in the conference once in a while?